Today we're talking to Nigel Sneyd, who is the Director of Winemaking at Accolade, which includes Hardy's, of course, Hardy's of Mclaren Vale, esteemed winery in Mclaren Vale, maker of fantastic red wines and all other sorts of other things these days, Pinot, Chardonnay from Tasmania, etc., etc. And Nigel, I'm going to ask you firstly, this wine here, this Hardy's Mclaren Vale Shiraz 2017, it's one of the rare exceptions. It's a single region wine. You do a lot of blending at Hardy's, but I guess in Mclaren Vale there's no real need to blend, is there? It's such a good Shiraz region.
Yeah, you're right, Huon. Hardy's have long had a tradition of blending multi-region wines. It was a founding belief of Thomas Hardy that the sum of several parts is better than the individual components. And many of our blends are multi-regional, particularly in our range of HRB wines, which sits just below Eileen. They can be blended using grape grower contacts from Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania, etc. And Eileen Hardy, at the Eileen Hardy, which is at icon level, the Chardonnay is frequently a blend of Tasmania, Yarra Valley, occasionally with Adelaide Hills or Margaret River. And the Pinot Noir, though, is more of an exception. It's generally pure Tasmania or Tasmania with a little bit of Yarra Valley. And then for many years now, Eileen Hardy Shiraz has been the other exception. It has been 100% Mclaren Vale. I think the last vintage where there were other regions in the blend was 1998, when it included a proportion of Franklin River from Western Australia and Clare Valley as well. But that you've got to go back to 98 to find that.
Would some of the fruit for this come from the Upper Tintara property? I notice you've got the Tintara winery sign behind you. We can read that. And of course, the Bob Hardy Vineyard, the Upper Tintara Vineyard, I think some of their grapes still go to Hardy's, don't they?
Correct. And some of the blocks from that vineyard are a dominant proportion in this blend.
And a very old vineyard too.
Correct. It's a beautiful, beautiful property. Now, the blocks vary depending on their exposure and when they were planted. But yeah, there are some blocks which have been identified in there, and they are regular performers at the very top end.
When you're making wine at Hardy's and you're doing your blends and so on, is it really international benchmarks that you hold in your mind, or are you holding Australian benchmarks in your mind?
For a wine like this, which has established its style, it's really Australian benchmarks, and it's really, we're benchmarking against the Hardy style, and it's so different to some of the other classic Australian Shirazes. I mean, we turn to the Barossa, we turn to some Victorian wines, and they're different. Mclaren Vale has that gentle, caressing, soft cashmere tannins. They're so deceptive. They're present, but they're so soft that you really don't notice them. They're not obtrusive. So we're not benchmarking against other styles, other regions so much, but really benchmarking against Eileen Hardy.
What have you got in store for us at Hardy's? Is there something new in the wings that we could get a sneak preview of?
Well, I think this year we're going to be releasing the new vintage Hardy Icon wines, and amongst those, for the first time in 7 years, will be a Pinot Noir from Tasmania. The 21 vintage was truly exceptional quality in Tasmania, and we were able to use some of our vineyard resources there to separate out a wine worthy of the Eileen Hardy name. That's very exciting. And the other exciting one being released this year is the 21 Eileen Hardy Chardonnay, which is also 100% Tasmania. I've said before, it's often a blend of Tasmania and Yarra Valley and some other regions, but this year we considered that Tasmania by itself had that lovely mineral saline texture that we just didn't want to detract from that at all. So that's a very fine Chardonnay. And we also made in 21, but for long-term future release an anniversary. It will be the 175th anniversary blend, which is a Shiraz Cabernet. And that will contain wines from the original Hardy Vineyard, some of which were fermented in the original Hardy slate fermenters out at the property. So it's a real nod to the past, as well as containing some really fine Coonawarra Cabernet in there as well. That's really going to be something to look forward to, but it's going to be released in 2028. So that's a work in progress at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, that's a lot to look forward to. I've actually tasted the 21 Tasmanian Pinot. I'm not sure why, but someone fed me a bottle of that under the counter, and it's very, very good indeed. Do you think that Tasmania is likely to be more and more important, not necessarily just to Hardy's or the Accolade Group, but generally speaking to the Australian wine industry as things seem to be getting generally hotter and earlier?
I definitely think so. The vines are coming, or some of the vines are coming of age, and they're being more professionally grown, cultivated, different areas available. It's going to emerge in the next decade or two as a really top region for those Chardonnay, Pinot, still wine styles.
Well, Nigel, thank you very much for your time today. It's been great talking to you. Nigel Sneyd, Master of Wine, Head of the Winemaking at Accolade, which of course includes the Hardy's brand, and we're saluting Hardy's for being one of the top wineries of Australia for the Real Review 2022. Congratulations, Nigel, and thanks again.
Thank you very much, Huon. Always a pleasure.